Good evening, welcome to tonight's Hearthstone Half Hour. I'm Hammy, this is Felcraftcast, and I hope you're all well and good and have had splendid weekends as we come into another New Player Monday. And on New Player Monday, we are going to be jumping in and taking a look at a deck that we've seen in the ladder that's of the time happening at this point, and whether you're watching this the time it's recorded or in the future, at least you can learn another deck and another style. And do of course remember that the metagame, the changing, shifting decks of Hearthstone will mean that even though some decks may not be popular when you watch them, at least they may still be relevant in terms of the concepts that they cover. So what we are playing today is Undertaker Priest. We're going to be taking a look at a deck, and today's deck is from no one else but someone called Brian Kibler. Now, he did very well recently. You may recognise BMK from the Sunshine Open not too long ago, in August of the 2014s, and the deck was doing very, very nicely in a whole bunch of rounds. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the deck, we're going to build it, and as we build it together, we'll have a look and see how it works, have a look at some of the key concepts, and then what we'll do is jump into some games with it to see how it works in the real world, maybe in casual mode and in the ladder. So without further ado, let's jump into our very good friend, deck creation mode, and we're going to grab Priest. Now, I played a lot of Priest in the past, so even though I failed miserably with taking a look at a trump deck, hopefully this will work out a bit better. So let's first look at the start. What does this deck do? Well, the Undertaker Priest, the clue is in the name. We have Undertaker. Now, why is Undertaker being used in this type of deck? Basically, the goal of this deck is to make Undertaker ridiculous. Undertaker just basically gets you ahead in the early game because you are then going to summon a whole bunch of stuff after it with deathrattle that will buff it up, and you are being given a lot of deathrattle options in the early game. So you may have seen this done with other decks in other ways. Lots of people try and attack on with Undertaker. So we'll build the deck, we'll show you how that first concept comes together, and then once you've got ahead, you stay ahead using other cards to finish. So there are lots of cards that are good threats in their own right. A lot of them there's a little bit of stall and a little bit of trading, but you need to get a hard. If you don't get ahead, then you will be struggling a little bit. So if you can get ahead, you will really, really do well. If you are not doing that and you are having to draw into sort of bad, more heavy drops, then you're going to be struggling. So we're going to take a look at this version. So for starters, we have 2 Undertaker in there, being the key of our early game. So remember, get ahead with Undertaker and early game drops, and then stay ahead and finish with some of your big decks. So Undertaker times 2. Next, we're going to go for some power word shields. Reason for those being, well, we can buffer Undertaker, draw a card for 1 mana, real strong, and then a bunch of general uses, making minions more tanky, keeping stuff, making things big to be healed, which we'll take a look at in a bit, and other such plays. So 2 power word shield, bit of a no-brainer. Next up, 2 Northshire Clerics. This is a priest deck. You will have clerics. If we're making minions bigger, harder to destroy, then if we heal them and can draw cards, so well and good. So the Northshire Cleric, a priest staple. 2 of those in. Next, Zombie Chow. Oh, I can't spell it. This is SSZZ zombie. There we go. I'm still looking for the text box at the bottom when it's gone to the top. 2 Zombie Chow. What does this do? Well, in the early game, obviously that death rattle is painful, but in the early game, Zombie Chow will let you trade against enemy minions, and really you use this as a big body on the table. You're not using this to attack your opponent's face. Ideally, you're using Zombie Chow just to trade minions and get it down. So you can really, really, really cause some problems. Now, there is your Zombie Chow. Next up, we have the 3-drop. We have the very popular 3-drop that has come in from Naxxramas, the Dark Cultist. 2 of those, giving a random friendly minion plus 3 health. You may have seen this coming up more on ladder in Priests. Reasons for this: it is solid, you can play into people with it, your opponent has to try and deal with it last, otherwise it's going to be giving something a lot of extra health and putting a lot of extra pressure on. So this is really good at just reinforcing all of your other early game minions when it hits the table. Next up, the Harvest Golem. So familiar to those of you who zoo, familiar to those of you who rush, and also in some Watcher decks that revolve around creating tanks, slightly stally walls in the early game because you can make it into a lovely tank. That helps you cement early game advantage, make beneficial trades. When it dies, another one is summoned unless it is silenced. So 2 for 1, very, very, very good. So this is what we will grab in there. Next up, we're going to be probably throwing in actually what we're going to be... Oh, no, I don't need those suggestions. We're actually going to, swap that. In one version of the deck he goes for that, but I think actually we'll go for this version instead. So we'll trade those in for another similarly strong card, just slightly lower drop, going with the Haunted Creeper. And again, some of these still apply. You can tank this up. It's good for trades. It will create early table pressure, and summoning those spiders will keep it doubly strong. So similar reason to the reason that you would have a Harvest Golem in there. Next up, then, a couple of... Oh, come on, look at your typing. Loot Hoarders, Death Rattles, they're going to be buffing our Undertaker. Of course, the Haunted Creeper's Death Rattle will also be buffing our Undertaker. The Zombie Chow will also be buffing our Undertaker. So if we get an Undertaker down and start throwing all of this down, Dark Cultist, need I say more, Power Word Shield and an Undertaker, you can see how we could get ridiculously strong very, very early. Now, Shadow Madness. This is for a tempo change. If we are going to be struggling in the early game, if we need to be trading something, anything else, then that lets us turn the tempo. If we're struggling for draw and similar, then we can grab something off our enemy, most likely in the early game, and either trade it away or use it for our own advantage. So that will be useful situationally in terms of turning the tempo, and it is also the image which we have in our slate image, so a big hooray for that. Quite a fan. Next up, the classic in the Priest. No issues with this whatsoever. It is a pretty standard Priest draw in the Organized Soul Priest. This is used because it changes your attack, your healing hero power, into a damage attack instead. So you can be using this to ping away at people's minions and similar. Now note that we are also have to get the 0 drop that we've not grabbed so far, the Circle of Healing, which combos very well for area clearance with the Organized Soul Priest. Instead of doing 4 health to all minions healing, it can then do 4 damage to all minions, and that way the table is worked down. And if you're playing rushes, if you're playing lots of big minions, that's going to be letting you do some removal. Next we have none other than Argus. So we've got all of these minions that we're throwing down, all of these early game minions. Argus will let us create monstrously strong Undertakers. If we buff them up enough, it will create walls, slow us down, and make sure that we keep table control and tempo on our side. We have a Holy Nova ×2. That is our clearance, that is our healing stuff, synergizes, combos very nicely with Northshire Cleric, and we can be using that to further remove swarms, rushes, similar oppression on us. Next we have a Loteb. Now Loteb, if you need a 5 drop in a deck at the moment, there's almost just, it's kind of like what's not to like about Loteb. He's 5/5/5, and a lot of people, if they're playing a deck that needs to sort of have a little bit of a mid-game tempo, he really switches tempo because how many decks don't really use a whole bunch of spells? You're thinking of a Zoo Warlock, for example, who will only use things such as Soulfire and similar things like that, and really most decks have a reasonable chunk of spells in them. So Loteb, played on turn 5, will most of the time put a spanner in the works of your opponent, slow them down in some way, cause them some problems. So he's a very solid 5 drop here. He'll give us some nice tempo change, similar to Shadow Madness. We can use that to turn the tables or further cement the lead that hopefully we've got into by this point. Next up we have a Sludge Belcher. With the Sludge Belcher ×2, mid-game tank, 2 for 1. It also has the Death Rattle, of course, so if we're still wanting to buff up our Undertakers for the early game, this will be slowing our opponent down and making sure again that we can put pressure on them in terms of keeping our hopefully early game advantage that we've obtained going. So that will be a nice cementing our mid-game table position, as well as potentially another buff that we can drop on top. Cabal, we're going to go into the 6 mana drops, and we're going for Cabal Shadow Priest. So many priests, you just need to remember all their names. The Cabal Shadow Priest, 1 times. And one of these, take control of a minion with 2 or less attack. Again, that's a tempo switcher and nicking stuff in the mid to late. which will be useful, and it's a relatively solid minion for the late game as well, so we're using that for some tempo. Ken comes up, and Ken's Bloodhoof is really just, again, he's partially a tempo card. He doesn't steal tempo, he sort of reinforces your own tempo. If you drop him on a turn 6 and you're in a good position, your opponent is suddenly thinking, right, I need to silence it, or I need to get rid of that, otherwise it's just going to keep chipping away, removing minions, perhaps doing damage to the face. So Cairn, one of those ubiquitous, kind of genuinely useful legendaries, much like the next legendary that we're going to drop in the name of Sylvanus Windrunner. I can never spell Sylvanus, so I'm going to spell Windrunner instead, because there's no way of messing that up. There is the Windrunner herself, and Sylvanus. You may see a distinct trend in the kind of cards that we're grabbing here. Again, it's another card that will let us get further ahead if we're in a strong position, or if we're slightly even or behind. Again, it lets us switch tempo. So Sylvanus down will make sure that our opponent has to think twice about getting rid of various stuff on our side of the table. If our opponent takes Sylvanus and can't silence her, then Sylvanus is going to be stealing a card from our opponent's side of the table. So another awkward card, like Cairn, like some of the other ones, if we're not robbing our opponent's minions off of them, then we're going to be very certainly making them slow down and try and get their side of things under control. So it's a lot of food for thought minions, making your opponent slow, think and pause. Then last but not least, now interestingly, you can see that there's sort of a lack of finisher in here in some ways, but the last card in this version of this deck, and there are a couple of different versions, is Mind Control. Now Mind Control is your late game, for want of a better word, trump. You are going to be keeping that in hand in case you need to turn into your opponent who's got some big threat out, and you need to steal their threat off them for their own nefarious purposes. Now this is one version that we'll give a go. There are other versions of this deck, and the other versions of this deck, as we were going through just earlier, drop in sort of Harvest Golem, go a little bit heavier on Shadow Madness, and then also drop in things like Holy Fire and stack up on an Inextricable Shadow Priest. So those changes will probably be the main interesting change. Is also a couple of Death Lords. Now the Death Lord is quite a situational card, because of course it does have Death Rattle, but then when it gets removed, of course it will allow your opponents to bring a minion into play from their deck for free. So that, although because it's very cheap for its cost, is quite good in the early game. If you get a bad draw off it, then it can turn things against you very, very quickly. So that is our Undertaker Priest that we're going to take a look at, as made famous by BMK. And what we're now going to do is jump into ladder and see if we can get some of this going in practice. We're only about rank 14, we've not really been pushing on the ladder as hard as we were imagining that we would this month so far, but there's no problem at all as a result in taking it in for a live trial and trying it out. So what I would always recommend is going into casual mode to start with, as we pull that up on the left hand side of the screen so you can see it. You can play in casual mode to your heart's content, not damage your ladder ranking. We're not too concerned about ladder ranking, so we're going straight into ladder for the second part of this show and see what we can do. Okie dokie, so our goal with this deck, we want to be getting out an Undertaker, dropping a lot of similar death rattling minions to buff up that Undertaker, and trying to get a really, really nice early piece of pressure. Okay, so we want the early drops, those are fine, but what we really need is to mulligan and try and get an Undertaker. So I'm going to bin the Cleric. The Cultist is a nice turn 3 drop. If I don't get an Undertaker, I can still subsist with Zombie Chow. Now, I've gone a little bit worse in terms of Mind Control, but I can still use the Chow to put early game pressure on. And there we go, we've drawn into Undertaker, so I'm going to throw that down straight away, and that is perfect. Turn 1 droppage for me. Now into turn 2 I can Loot Hoarder, I can Zombie Chow. Really it's going to depend on what kind of warrior our warrior is playing. So remember, our goal is to, there goes down an axe, and he's going to get rid of that straight away. He's not going to let that get big in the slightest. So with that weapon on the table, what I really want to be doing is getting ahead. So I don't mind going into a Loot Hoarder to get some pressure down. I can throw a Zombie Chow down for cheap to buff another Undertaker if I get it. something I could have done, I could have thrown down the zombie chow to try and bait out one of those. Down goes an armor smith. I'm going to keep that Shadow Madness in case I want to sacrifice the armor smith. The zombie chow will probably let me do some healing. There's nothing else for me to heal, and I'm not going to be circling healing, so really not huge amounts of options, but let's start getting some pressure on. Now, of course, I could trade away this armor smith. Remember that when the zombie chow does go down, of course I'm going to heal my opponent for 5. Okay, so he's removed it, just got that off the table, restored the 5, and now he's going to be having those 2 down, which means he would quite like some damage. So what can I do? Shadow Madness will let me not actually remove either of these from the table. I could nick the Acolyte of Pain to get myself to draw a card. Haunted Creeper will let me put some more pressure on. I can't remove the Acolyte, which is a bit of a shame. So with that in mind, I can get myself healed up. Do I just want to get table control? Do I want to steal a card and remove something? I'm going to drop a Creeper for the time being, keep myself healed, and I'm just going to keep coming at him. So, because we lost our Undertaker early game, we are probably not in as much control as we would like. Now, this is most likely a control warrior. He's not flooded the table. Down goes the Taskmaster. That will most likely be... Oh, okay, he's gone for armour. And maybe he'll be using that to draw for some more armour. There we go. However, I still have Shadow Madness. I can use that to be nicely played. Not only is he armouring up, but he's also drawing cards. So this warrior really getting a lot of value in the early game, as well as clearing my board. Not going to be hilariously happy with that. What we can do now is we can do a nice 2 for here. If I Shadow Madness this, it will let me draw a card and remove the Armor Smith. So that's a nice play for us into the Sludge Belcher next turn, and leaving him with 1 minion on the table. So we have so far not been able to get ahead and stay ahead from the beginning. This deck, the later into the game it gets, you've seen our mana curve, and we really have nothing apart from a mind control above 6 mana. So for those reasons, I think a low tab at this point. I could have canned, of course, but that's really going to stop him from doing anything apart from playing minions. Now next turn I can throw down a Belcher, I can start trading minions away. He's actually gone for a full-on 6 mana Shield Slam, which will have slowed him down a tad. But now we can start hopefully throwing down our big minions. The Dark Cultist into an Argus would be sublime, but I'm going to get Cairn down on the table because I can Cultist an Argus next turn. That gives me a very solid 3 on the table, a couple of excellent tanks, and then of course the Cultist that will be causing some problems as well. Manipulator, very nice, getting his own Cairn on the table, but of course I can now take control of a minion with 2 or less. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to throw into a Cultist and then go for the Mega Tankage. Now I can trade that off the table. If only I had my Priest on the table. Now I'm going to start playing trades and trying to get the table slightly under control. This will go. I'm actually going to just drop a Circle of Healing because he would have to sacrifice both of those now to remove my Cairn, but I also have the Cultist. He would go for Cairn first because the Cultist, if he goes for that, then well, it will give me some rather nasty options. Sylvanas he can sacrifice against any of my minions and steal something. That's not so good. He's going to try and, there we go, drop that down. I can't silence Sylvanas. He can not quite sacrifice it unless he can do some damage to it himself, which I'm sure he can. The Cultist, I don't want to be sacrificing everything against the Sylvanas. There is a chance he's going to rob something, but I do have mind control to steal it back. With that in mind, I'm going to throw down some more minions on the table that will really just cause him some issues. So we've got table position here, but because he's got Sylvanas down, that could very easily change the tempo back. So let's see if flooding that, I mean against Sylvanas, if I had lots of small irritate minions, he has, let's say, a 3 in 5 chance at the moment getting something nice. That's quite nice. And then my 2 tanks with deathrattle are obviously very nice indeed. So down that goes. He is not going to be able to sacrifice his Sylvanas this turn, but note that next turn when he attacks with Deathspite, he will do so, because the 1 damage from Deathspite's whirlwind effect is going to kill Sylvanas. So how can I work this situation to my advantage? Well, I can Cabal Shadow Priest, I can steal another small minion, I can attempt to sacrifice some other minions, and I do have mind control in fact, which, let's not make a misplay, stealing Sylvanas is 100% the best play in every conceivable situation. Now as a control warrior he will have a whole bag of tricks that will cause me more late game problems, but at this stage I think I just need to try and rush him down. 19, we can level him up to 21, and then I will have, he's gone for the card draw, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 15 damage, 17 damage. I don't quite have a lethal. He's got a brawl, and the brawl is of course optimal because it means that he's not going to have to control anything, and he's left me only with a Sludge Belcher, so control warrior coming up trumps, but I then do get my 2 other minions. Ooh. In goes the swing, and then a nice play with the Deathspite there, doing the 1 whirlwind damage, leaving him solidly on the table there. So I can't Cabal into anything at this point in time. I need a chunky minion on the table. There's an argument for saving this depending on what he may have. I'm going to throw this in, get myself healed up, and we're just going to have to tap and wait. So you can see that now, because this deck has almost run out of steam, what do I have left to damage him with? I do have 1 Undertaker and several deathrattle cards, but as a control warrior I know that with 13 cards left to go he may have, and there we go, and there he is. Ragnaros hits the deck. So because of that I may now be struggling. Is that going to, oh no, it's going to hit me straight to the face. What I could really do with now is a Walkenite Soul Priest. So I'm going to get that buffed up, and I've drawn into 1, fabulous. So this will, let's work it out. I've got 9, so if I do 2, and then I can do 2, deal 2, restore 2. I can't get rid of Rag quite. Let's work out if I've gone for a little misplay here. I think I've misplayed that. I forgot that I had this. So if I hit down an Orkney, I can just about strafe everything off the deck. Now if I Nova, then that will top everything up. And of course I've given him mana, which is not so great, but then I can drop the Orkney. Ooh, when you wonder if you've misplayed, I think there may have been a misplay in here somewhere. Circle of Healing. There was definitely a misplay in there somewhere. I was, there we go, I was going for a Rag. There we go. Removal, shield block. I rushed that whole sequence. I think that was the key play. Okay, Loot Hoarder. I think we may well be doomed. So it's worth noting that other versions of this, earlier versions of this, have packed a Ragnaros as a finisher. And the reason for that is because now, without Cairn doing anything, without Sylvanas doing anything, and without being able to grab the game sort of that early, then there we go, and now his own low tab is gone. So I think we can say well played, and let's get into another game of this. So what were the challenges there? Well, I think the main one was that we didn't get off our initial combo. We probably should have dropped something else against a warrior rather than the Undertaker, knowing that our opponent would go all out probably to destroy the Undertaker. So that's a learning for next game. It felt as though we were getting it together mid-game. Was the mind controlling the Sylvanas the right play, or should we have saved the mind control for later when we knew a big finisher would probably be coming up? Although our opponent managed to, nicking the Sylvanas stopped our opponent from stealing one of our own minions, he did then proceed to go and throw out a big bunch of minions in the late game. So I'm actually going to go for a full mulligan here and see if we can draw into a couple of lower drops. Okay, no minions. Should have probably kept hold of the loot hoarder. I think that holding on to a low death rattle minion, even if you don't have an Undertaker, is a pretty solid play for this. Okay, turn 1 in, and we've only got a circle of healing, playing a druid. We'll find out what kind of druid shortly. Dropping into a Northshire, maybe encouraging some removal. Do I just want this on the table to draw into something else? Well, I can drop this into a power word shield, which at least gives me the option of card draw. So again, we would have probably preferred to buff that Undertaker, but at least we've drawn into the Undertaker now. But we're going to want something low mana cost with death rattle, so that we can get out that pressure on an early turn. Otherwise we can know that this druid is going to be coming for us. He's not ramping so far though, he's not tried to accelerate anything out with Innovate, meaning that he could either be playing perhaps a Watcher deck, or the other alternative is that he's going for some kind of a later game option. Okay, so we've got two quite high health things there. If I can throw out some death rattles, then my Undertaker can get big. I've got a large Northshire Cleric on the table. He's coining into a 4-drop. I'm expecting perhaps a Druid of the Claw. No, gone for the Silence probably. There we go, removed. Making that less of a threat, but here's where we can start getting tanky. So there's a buff. Now we've got a 2/5. I don't quite have removal, but with a Sludge Belcher I will next turn. So we may as well charge into this, and we can heal that up. Sadly, we would have been able to draw a card if we'd not been silenced with the Northshire Cleric, but this is a bit of a better start than our last game. We've learnt a bit. We did get the Undertaker a little bit later. Our opponent obviously hasn't had a Wrath in his hand, or her hand, otherwise they would have removed my Priest a bit earlier. So we've managed to get going a little bit more quickly. Okay, I'm expecting maybe a Silence. There we go. Keeper of the Grove again. Now he's used both of his Keepers of the Grove on silencing some of my cards, so I know that none of those are coming, so that's good. I still feel as though we're ahead. Now there's nothing else to play there apart from a Belcher, so we can play straight into that. Options, we could start chipping away at the health of this. What I'm going to do is attack to the face with that, and I don't mind sacrificing that to put him on 3. If he does decide to charge into my Sludge Belcher, then he's going to remove that Druid Keeper of the Grove off the table. So Starfall, a big turn 5 drop, and he's really just getting rid of that tank straight up. He can then of course charge in with the Druid and remove it too, so fighting to keep table control here. However, we now just about have tempo. Down goes Ken. I'm going to keep attacking to the face there, because if he's going to charge that in, then he will perish either way. However, if I'd chipped in with there, I could have definitely taken him next turn. Down goes a Sunwalker. That is quite awkward for us. Sunwalker's such a solid card. Gone for a face, straight hit to the face there for 2. Now Belcher, that will solidify us nicely. The Holy Nova will remove some threats. We can Nova. He's probably not going to be swarming us with little minions. The Belcher would really give us a very solid table position, but it would not let us to remove that Sunwalker. So I'm probably going to go for the play of removing the Sunwalker, I think. With the added benefit of a Haunted Creeper on the table, we can heal up our... tad of a misplay there. I could have done this piece first. Now I can go for table position or heal this up a tad. If he does have a Wrath, that'll get removed anyway. So there was a play there where potentially I could have charged in my Spider first to remove the bubble, then then attacked with this, then Holy Nova'd, which would have healed that up too. There was some additional healing available there that I didn't take advantage of. I think we could have got this guy's health up a little bit more. Nice, okay, so I can play into an Argus. Now, if I heal this to start with, It's okay, we fail and learn. So let's just double check best play here. Now, I can't Belcher into an Argus, that would be excellent. A Haunted Creeper into an Argus, well, that's not going to quite remove our Belcher from the table. It's semi-wasting a tank, as it were. Is getting the Argus down on this turn the correct play? Well, it will certainly buff this to the stage that it will survive removing the Belcher. I think that sacrificing the Creeper is probably going to be the way to go. Okay, so we're going to have to sacrifice that Creeper anyway. So I think I'm going to Creeper on this side. I'm then going to Argus. It gives us the removal option to remove this, which is great. I can then drop a cheeky little heal. Now I could Circle of Healing. I'm just going to get that healed up a tad, and then I'm not going to be able to quite remove that. It will remove itself if it attacks any of my minions. Do I want to heal up Ken Bloodhoof for a Circle of Healing's worth? I'm going to risk it. That's a 3 heal for 0. I might have wanted to keep that to do some drawing with my Organized Soul Priest later in the game. So let's see if getting that tank extra high is going to be worth it or not. 3 health is of course within range of Wrath or Wrath for a Druid. 3 damage. So I'm protecting it from Wrath, but there is of course a whole bunch of other things that could remove it. Swipe, there you go, that's got it low, it's got it down to 4. That then puts it in range of a Wrath. Mark of the Wild, okay, that buffs up the health and attack, and then it is not going to survive, but it will remove my Cam. So he's had to play a fair few cards to remove that. A Wrath, no, he's just armoured up. And I've drawn into a North Shire. Now if I'd held that Circle of Healing as is, I can throw down a Belcher. Now I could Circle of Healing for a big draw here. I think in the spirit of this deck we want to get more ahead, don't we? Now I could circle for 2 cards, or I could, but that's not really going to hugely benefit things, so I'm just going to heal my tank. A Zombie Chow goes down. I don't want to really be healing my opponent at this stage. The Death Rattle's not going to benefit me. That stays, I think, in hand. However, what we can do is start charging in, and I would kind of like Sylvanas or similar to hit the deck now. There is the danger when we play a Druid getting into the late game. There's so many big cards that a Druid could drop that could just spoil my party. Poison Seeds, look at that for clearance. All minions replaced for 2/2 Treants. Now if he has some kind of area clearance, nope, just a Druid of the Claw. So that does set me back. Sylvanas is not going to help me here. I just need to see if I can remove this. Now leaving the tank up is kind of worth.
I have no time for games.
Okay, so dropping the Zombie Chow would be just giving him healing. And down that goes. Now, of course, the Sylvanas with nothing on the table. He's just dropped a 2nd Starfire for control. Big healing touch there. Dark Coldest, this would have been nice earlier in the game. I can keep chipping away, but we know that our Druid friend is going to have lots of options. We also know that we're down goes another Claw Druid. Our Druid is stalling, but we know that they will have big cards that they can throw down. Swipe. It's going to give something a +3 health. Okay. Getting a powerful Treant. Cabal Shadow Priest. We have no minion with 2 or less that we can actually take control of, but we need the kind of the body on the table to start doing some things with. So let's get that down there. This has got a +3 health. No, okay, I should have probably held something else. So we can do 2 to this. We can't quite remove it this turn. Oh, that was a ridiculous play. Don't Circle of Healing when you do attack. So Circle of Healing first, attack second if I was going to heal up all my minions. So that was a silly mistake. 3 Starfires? Is that 3 Starfires? Can't be 3 Starfires. I must be imagining things. Righty then, so we can tip him for 2, and heal for 2, and tip him for 2, and this is where suddenly the momentum okay, there goes the force of nature. Now that is interesting because he's kind of just clearing the table. Come forward to the face, power of the wild. Oh, a DOA. This is an entry team. So a deathrattle, putting a 4 on that would let him just destroy it and heal himself. But it gives me another tank. But it lets him heal himself. For that reason, we will drop and put a 6/6 lower tab on the table and just say no spells for you. And I'm sure he will try and trade this off the table. I'm also pretty sure that as a druid he's going to have some big finishes, and because we've managed not to take advantage early in the game, 7. Ouch. Spending all that mana on the removal, but worth it because he can then just attack again. He's not going for the trade, instead letting me come to him, getting himself healed up and slowly chipping away. So I need to draw some more cards, kind of running out of options here now, but I would put money on the fact that our druid is going to have some big finishes that we just don't have a reaction to. Going to be saving a Ragnaros, Ysera, or something similar to lay down the pain. With 8 mana there's all sorts you can drop. It does let me draw a card there. Organized Soul Priest. Now goes an Ancient of Law. Probably going to use the heal there. No, he's gone for the acceleration into 3 cards. That makes me doubly confident that there is something nasty on the way. Something wicked this way comes. Right, I'm going to do 3 there because if he decides to trade one of them, he can trade one. Getting him down to 3 health so that he can trade one of those. Of course, if I'd saved a Circle of Healing, there would have been better pressure available to me with the Organize. Down goes a Starfall is what he played, so we've had Starfire and Starfall. And that's 2 Starfires and 2 Starfalls that he's played, so really using those big mana cards to try and control the table. There we go. Damage done. Priest flying on in and taking a blow for me before it expires. And now we're in the situation we kind of had 2 zombie chows, which I'm sure he will find some way of removing. Right, we can only save those to try and buff, I think, the remaining single Undertaker that we have in our deck. Down goes a Chillwind Yeti. This probably suggests that our druid here is playing some kind of Watcher, potentially. Excess mana, just drawing all the cards. 4 cards left to go. Can we win on a stall? Unlikely, given that we probably can't remove that Chillwind Yeti. So I think another thing to this deck, gain a control of an enemy minion with 3 attack. I think this may well be it. Down goes Rag. Now we do have a mind control, of course, in our last 4 cards. However, we kind of need to top deck mind control. Mind control. No. So throwing down zombie chows will certainly let us survive another turn. I think that's kind of all we can do. We'll Nova to get ourselves a bit higher on health, and we will heal ourselves up. So the zombie chows are going to just feed him some healing. There we go. Lots of pressure down, the healing going on, another ball there going down, another bunch of healing. So I could mind control something. Now do I take the tank? Okay, I do finally get the mind control. Now what do you reckon? Do I take Rag or tank? I guess we could take Rag, and what shall we go for? Over to you, live stream. Rag can't attack. Nope, Rag can't attack. You're quite right there, Niska. So we can mind control one of the two to finish this stream off for this evening. What are you going to choose? We're going to tank or YOLO Rag. Dum bum 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 bum. We've got one vote for tank and one vote for Ragnaros. I'm going to go for Ragnaros. In the spirit of Failcraft, who knows, this might destroy the tank and then we'll be in a hilarious position. Oh! What are the odds? So, with 6 cards in hand, Big Game Hunter. Well played. That's going to be game. Going goes a Shadow Golem. A stall here is incredibly unlikely. I'm almost out of cards. Down goes the Dark Cultist. I can Shadow Madness. He's not going to have lethal. It ain't over till it's over. I can take that. There's 1 health left on there. It doesn't make a difference. One of them will do damage either way, but you can heal up the Yeti for more. So therefore I'm going to get rid of the Yeti. Down goes that. We actually steal one of his minion and double up, so we've kept ourselves alive on the barest of 9 healths. Okay. So really the question is, what does this druid have left in his hand who's got loads more health than me? I'm probably not going to survive a race, sort of a war of attrition. Kel'Thuzad. There we go. Kel'Thuzad would have gone wonderful with his Force of Nature earlier. There we go. We know that that's going to get reborn. Another 2 pressure. I don't know what my last card is, but it's probably not going to do the job. Innovate. Lets him drop another 2. And then a Wrath. A Wrath finally removes. So we'll give him a well played for that. Out of interest. Oh, there's the Undertaker. The Undertaker that we could have done with on turn 1. Or indeed any turn apart from the last. So thank you so much for tuning in to tonight's Hearthstone half-hour randomness. We have suffered, but we've certainly taken a look at that, the sort of Undertaker Priest. So an interesting deck, and although we lost a couple of times, I think we learned a lot coming to that fresh as to how we'd play that in future. Lessons, and lessons. So I think the main things are try and get, obviously we want to be mulliganing keeping Undertakers. If we don't have Undertakers, it's worth keeping low death rattling drops. The whole goal of the deck is to get ahead and stay ahead. The dropping of Sylvanas I think is a key point. It's probably worth at some points saving Sylvanas for the later game rather than throwing her down straight away. Both games when we played Sylvanas she got fairly easily removed. We need to be dropping Sylvanas when there is a board of minions that the opponent is building up, and then it's more likely that Sylvanas is actually going to take something rather than if Sylvanas is simply just dying and her death rattle effect is not helping us out. So there we go. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you're watching this on YouTube, do come and check out us live on twitch.tv/FelcraftCasts. And sorry, that's Felcraftcast. We try and go live at those times that you see in the overlay on the left. If you are live, don't forget our archive, youtube.com/FelcraftCasts on our YouTube channel, loads of Hearthstone half hours and similar. And last but not least, you can always check out on at FelcraftCasts on Twitter when we're going to be going live. We'll always try and tweet in advance. So thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully see you tomorrow for Arena Tuesday or for another episode if you're watching this on an archive sometime soon. So come find us. Great to have you along.